Ready to get to it? Zoomcast. Log in and check it out.
Boy, oh boy, we are on live. Welcome everybody to episode 30 of this humble little Zoomcast. I'm Matt Grima, and today's special guest, he's no joke. I tell you what, REB Top 50, number 33 on the list. We're talking about an associate director out of the Burundara team at Marshall White. He's a fan favourite in every sense of the word. Spells his name with an E on the end. He's one of my great mates. I speak, of course, of the great Davide Lettieri. David, welcome to Zoomcast.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. Very nice to be here. And as I've mentioned to you many times before, mate, I'm a very big fan, and I don't think I've missed an episode yet, mate. So, no, you're doing some great stuff, bud. So, no, appreciate you finally giving me the call up, mate. So, I've been waiting. So, a long while.
Fresh. Have you got a fade for Zoomcast today specifically?
I do, mate. I do. I'm almost a weekly visitor down to my barber down the road here. So shout out to Harry and Co on Glenferrie Road. They do a very good job, mate. So look after me weekly almost, Matty.
Can you get Harry and Co to sponsor this humble little Zoomcast that doesn't make any money whatsoever?
There might be a chance, mate.
I tell you what, it's been a long anticipated guest you have. I've had people come to me left, right and centre say, get Lettieri on. He's full of energy. He's a great character. He's a bloody good estate agent. We're going to cut through that. Don't worry about that. But yeah, we're going to have a bit of fun over the next 30 or so minutes. I know you've got a dinner to get to, you told me about, so I don't want to keep you waiting, David.
No, thank you, mate. Thank you. Not an important one, but appreciate it.
Hey, 16 years in the game, there's clearly a lot to unpack. So I'm not going to go through it year by year or blow by blow, but can I start with the accolade that you just received? I don't want to embarrass you, and that's not my style. On Zoom. No, it's generally not. It is the humblest of shows, David. It is available on iTunes, Spotify, and anywhere you get a good podcast, and a little YouTube version. But David, I tell you what, number 33 in the REB Top 50. That's an incredible feather in your cap. Pete Mitchell, he'd be all over it based on some of the feedback he put out to the Marshall White fraternity. And if you're not part of Marshall White, you won't understand the comedic genius in that joke, David. But my God, did he have us up in arms on the couch that night?
He's a good man, Pete Mitchell. Very good man.
He's a ripper. He's a wonderful bloke. And,
lovely guy.
He's had a bit of fun there. But I quite seriously, I mean, it's been a bit of a journey and a rise to get to that point. You don't wake up day one, week one, and be able to do the sort of numbers that you have. Again, I don't want to embarrass you, but it's about $1.6 million in fees over that span, which allowed you to get into the REB Top 50. It's been a good ride for you, hasn't it?
It has, mate. Market's been kind to us last few years. So, and going through some troubled waters at the moment, mate, with some uncertainty. But no, we've had some pretty good years. So I think that's probably, it helps a little bit with getting to some better figures and better numbers and better turnover, mate. So, which is what we do. But no, market's been kind to us. But yeah, no, it's been a good ride, mate. I've enjoyed it, mate. It's been a long one. When you say 16 years, it doesn't feel like 16 years, but because I still look baby faced, mate, and feel bloody 21. But yeah, it's been a long journey, mate. So yeah, enjoyed every bit of it.
You're 34, if I'm not wrong in saying, from an age perspective. So that means 34. You've been in it your entire professional life, Dave. You didn't do any other form of employment prior to getting into real estate outside of high school?
I did, mate. I used to work at an ice cream shop and two locations, one in Melbourne Central there in Chapel Street. So that was my part-time job through school, and yeah, so that was my last job before getting into real estate, mate. So, but no, straight out of school into, I think I started April 2007 into real estate. So yeah, so straight out of school. Got it.
And for a guy that's still relatively young in terms of his age, from a professional sense, you've been through a few markets, haven't you? I mean, you've seen the GFC, you've seen the Royal Commission banking fiasco. And now you're seeing what we're all experiencing with these multiple interest rate hikes.
Yeah, and COVID as well, lockdowns and the like. So, yeah, admittedly, it was a while ago, the GFC, so I didn't really probably understand the real estate and everything all that much, only being sort of 12 months into it. But, yeah, but now that people talk about it, it was actually quite a challenging time in real estate. So I can't really remember back that far, to be honest. But 18 was a tough market. It really was. I've probably found that the most challenging market I've worked through. Funny enough. So because things really did slow down quite aggressively and in a short amount of time. And COVID was another journey as well, mate. So, but admittedly, I didn't hate the slower pace in which we operated at and the like. So I didn't mind it, and it made you. I mean, that burst, stop, start sort of real estate model was hard to adjust to at the start, but then it became sort of second nature after 5 or 6 lockdowns, whatever we did, mate. So yeah, but I enjoyed it for what it was, and I still didn't take my foot off the gas through lockdown. I still tried to do as much as I could, which was just getting close to your database and nurturing client relationships, so that you were able to be busy when you came out of it. But and you're able to do that because if you weren't doing that small amount of work day to day, you don't know what else other people were doing. So as you probably know, mate, I'm a guy that likes to keep busy. So I really can't sit down and watch TV for hours at a time, mate. So yeah, I went a bit stir crazy when I ran out of people to call during lockdown. So but, yeah, I like to keep busy.
Yeah, well done. Well done. We're going to touch on your work ethic, which I think is something that's a character trait that's well known about you and continues to get mentioned amongst the martial white fraternity anyway. But before we go there, I reckon you're a bloke, Dave. You've got this beautiful blend of street slugger meets, I went to Xavier and I'm pretty impressive at what I do. It's a rare hybrid. Most people are either one way or the other. You tend to play both sides of the fence pretty well. Can you talk me through your journey as a young tacker and how you went through the education process?
Yeah, no, I like that terminology, mate. So
thank you, Dave.
I wouldn't want to liken myself to a Dane Swan and saying it. He played at Collingwood and AFL through and did it his way, as he says many times in all podcasts and interviews that I've heard him in, mate. But no, I guess I'm my own sort of personality, mate. And I used to say to a lot of my mates and in the industry and not that, there's a lot of people that love real estate, and I used to call them real estate nerds, for lack of a better term, mate. And I guess I've never really been that person that, has been like that, lives and breathes it, and has to talk to everyone about it socially. And I don't really, I've got a lot of friends in real estate, mate, you included, and many others at our company and others. So it can become polarizing, being around real estate all the time. So I've never been the person that talks about it a lot outside of work. But at work, when you're on, I guess. So that's probably where that sort of balance maybe comes into it, mate. So, while I love what we do, mate, and the lifestyle and the environment that we create for ourselves, not only at our great business here at Marshall White, but just as an industry in general, I like to switch off, and I like to, just be a different person outside of real estate, mate. Not that, professional that's always networking and trying to wheel and deal outside of real estate, mate, with friends and family. It's never been me, and it probably never will be. But but I know a lot of people are like that. So and they're very successful. So, but I'd like to think, mate, I'm trying to do it my way. What that's worth. So
you want to wear a couple of hats. You want to be David the mate. You want to be David the good son. You want to be David the good partner when you're in a relationship. You want to be. I mean, you want to be a great estate agent when you need to be, as opposed to being all encompassing.
Yep. No, I don't want to be a real estate agent 24/7. So and I've probably just only started learning a bit of a balance. Maybe the last sort of 3 to 5 years when your workload picks up and the like, and you're managing team or a team and the like, so it becomes very consuming. But having said that, mate, I love spending a heap of time with all my real estate friends, and which I have many. So you're never away from it for too long. So but having a balance is important. But to answer your first question in terms of sort of the journey into or sort of school into real estate, very fortunate enough to go to Xavier College in Kew, and the great schools that we have here in Victoria, mate, and went there from grade 5 right through to year 12, and as I said, got into real estate straight after school. What were you like as a student? You're a funny man. You're very serious today. I don't know where
where the seriousness is coming from. You're on the podcast live, raw and uncut. We hit record, we hit stop, and we upload whatever the hell comes out of us. But what were you?
I don't want to say the wrong thing, mate. So
no, you're very conservative today, David. Thank you.
No.
What were you like as a student? Were you into it, or did it take a bit to get going?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise anyone to know that, mate, I was a bit of a rat bag at school. I was a bit cheeky. I like to toe the line quite a bit. I never liked to be told what to do and how to do it. I guess I've probably had a real estate career that's been similar to that. So,
Yep.
But yeah, and I love school, mate, and I was probably more of a social thing for me, you know, towards the later years rather than
Yep.
focusing on being studious and everything else. And I probably had a small inkling that maybe real estate was going to be the path for me after school, because I did work experience in year 10 that many of us do at school.
Yep.
And I worked for a really great company, mate, that was close to home. If I can mention their name, mate, Harrington Earl, with John Harrington and Steve Earl back in the time. And they've still got a great business now, huge rent roll. And I worked alongside John for the week.
Yep.
And got exposed to, you know, sales, rentals, mate, filing, you know, cleaning the toilets, did everything for them, mate. So driving around in his flash car and photo shoots and all those sorts of things. And that was probably my first exposure to real estate. And funny enough, I sort of fell into that placement because it got to about a week before we had to decide on where we wanted to go. And the careers counsellor called me in for a meeting and said, "You haven't decided where you're going." And I said, "Really? I just thought I could get away with not going." So, but that wasn't an opportunity. That wasn't an option. So, so she kind of sort of placed me into going there. And yeah, so I loved it that much, mate, that yeah, I decided that was probably where I wanted to head after school, mate, rather than you know, focus on being the studious student that I should have been, to the detriment of my parents. But yeah, and finished school, mate, did the agents rep course, and rest is history.
And away you went. You touched on your parents. I hope you don't mind me asking, what was home life like for David Lettieri? What did mum and dad do? And do you have any siblings? What was your day-to-day like at home as a young bloke?
Yeah, awesome family, mate. So we're a family of 4. We've got a younger sister, and mum is an accountant.
Yep.
Also is an accountant, yeah. And dad's in hospitality. So been a restaurant owner and all those sorts of things. So yeah, no, we're very similar in terms of personality and characteristics. So he's a very social guy and the like. So yeah, so no, we yeah, very tight family as well, mate. So yeah.
Yeah, good on you. Good on. Where do mum and dad reside now?
Mum and dad still in Clifton Hill,
Yeah,
where I grew up. So they've been there for forever and a day, mate. So
brilliant.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
in a city boy.
We talked about. I'll tell you where I got the work ethic conversation from. So I remember doing James Tosterman scripts and dialogues training, you know, day 1, week 1 in my Marshall White tenure, and still to this day, again, I'm not trying to embarrass you, but I just did a training session with Tosterman a fortnight ago, and he said that he pulled up in the car park. It was either first thing in the morning or last thing at night, and he said there was one other car in the car park, and he asked the group of 20 or 30 people that he was coaching at the time, "Can somebody guess whose car was in the car park outside of mine?" And most hands went up and said David Lettieri's, and they were proven to be correct. You are a workhorse, and I love the fact, you know, we are holistic on this Zoomcast, that you are finding some balance in your life, but you put the pedal to the metal quite seriously, and you're 24/7 when you're on. Does that work ethic, that drive, determination to succeed, where does that come from?
Yeah, good question, mate. I mean, there has to be some sort of background from my upbringing and parents, and I mean, dad being in hospitality, mate, and being a restaurant owner a number of times. Dad worked a lot, so I think that work ethic was probably instilled from me from that. Seeing him, you know, I mean, some weeks he probably worked 7 days a week, mate, opening, closing, and doing all that sort of stuff. So he lived a very busy work life. So I reckon it came a lot from that exposure as a young kid.
Yep.
Also, I mean, I was lucky enough to play a reasonable level of sport back in my school days, mate, and mainly football, and did okay. And I think that discipline of working in a team and that sort of high performance environment that sort of sport creates, there's nowhere to hide. If you have a bad game, you get shown up pretty quickly, and they used to say train as you play and that sort of thing as well. So I guess that performance mentality, mate's always been there from school and as a younger kid through mum and dad. So I guess real estate's a version of a high performing sports environment, whereas, the harder you work, the better you can do. So
what were you, I mean, obviously I would imagine that the tasks that you were doing day one, week one, vary substantially to the tasks or actions that you're doing now. But when somebody drives past 801 Glenferrie Road into Hawthorn, I'm pretty sure that's your address. Thank you.
So much.
When somebody drives past at 6:07 p.m. and there's one light on in the office and it's yours, what the bloody hell are you doing, man? Are you calling people? Are you following up appraisals that you've done? Is there a specific task on a specific day that you want to do? Is it a call target that you've got to meet? Otherwise you feel ill inside. Yeah. Can I unpack that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good question, mate. I'm probably not using my work time as effectively, mate, some might say, but
you're not right now, I can tell you.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you for jumping on.
No, look, I mean, I've never been really, I've always operated towards the evening and operated maybe a better focus level towards the evening and afternoon. I never sort of been the early morning riser. I'm not a 5 a.m. person club or 6 a.m. person club, or like Nick Brooks, 4 a.m. club operator. But I guess that, and I learned this off Marcus Caminello, who we're very grateful to have in our business, mate, and have a heap of exposure to. But Marcus, I remember saying many years ago at one of his training sessions, he leaves the non-dollar productive stuff to the morning, middle of the day, or the end of the day, and focuses the time in between on face-to-face appointments, with clients or whatever it may be, or on the phones and doing dollar productive work. So I've just basically tried to implement that, mate. So anything that's non-dollar productive, reports, emails, that type of thing, follow-up, databasing, I leave towards the early part of the day, middle or end of the day. And sometimes it's a lot of it. So I rarely do it during the day. I try not to touch my emails all that much during the day. So I just leave it to being, meeting focused and client focused, whether it be on the phone or, as I said, face to face. So that's probably where the time sort of goes. And we can always find work to do in real estate. It's easy to make excuses not to do it, but I guess I try and accomplish as much as I can each day. So I give myself less to do the next day, because I know the next day is going to fill up with things anyway. So yeah, I'm one of those people, mate, that's a bit mad that I have to have a clean inbox at the end of the day, have to return all my phone calls, reply to all my text messages. Otherwise I can't settle after leaving the office. So that's probably a bit of an illness, mate, that I have, that I need to that finish the day like that and be able to sort of go again the next day. So that's probably what a lot of it is. So, and if I'm not in the office, mate, you're probably doing appointments. But it wouldn't be every day that I'm working all that late. I try and finish early a little bit on Thursday and a Friday. But Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, mate, I try and fill up as much as I can. Definitely.
Yep. What does Saturday look like for David Lettieri? It's game day. Everyone does it differently. There are some agents that are up early doing some form of a gym session, washing their cars, going out to breakfast with their team, getting into the office early, setting the day that way. And then there are other people that have done most of what they need to do on Friday and literally drive from their house to their first open for inspection and get stuck into it that way. I'm not suggesting there's a right or wrong way, but I'm just curious to know what's worked for you.
Yeah, I'm very lucky, mate, to live very, very close to our office. So so I do try to pop into the office every Saturday morning. There'll all be someone here to have a chin wag with and sort of, settle before you start a busy day and obviously get prepared. So I try and do a lot of my prep work for auctions and everything else on the Friday before the Saturday, but there'll always be some fine tuning, mate, to that on a Saturday morning. So it normally starts in the office and then off to your first open or auction, and normally try and conclude at the office, particularly after an auction day, and depending how they go, mate, whether it be something that we've passed in or we've sold and, just dumping all the material, mate, at the office. But if it's a pass in, you want to get back on the phones, mate, and try and do that follow up, while it's red hot, and see if you can try and create some activity for those houses that didn't sell that day, or make any important phone calls to potential vendors or the like as well.
Some people, so that's interesting. I don't mean to put you on the spot here. So you're in the office in the morning on a Saturday. You're setting yourself up for your day. What does that look like? Are you calling prospective bidders and buyers to wish them the best of luck with the day? Are you calling prospective vendors to wish them the best with their auction? Are you sending your hot buyers list to a couple of properties that might be worth looking at? Are they the sort of activities you're doing on a Saturday morning?
Look, not really, mate. So the way the teams, not to get you down in flames, mate. But I mean, similar. Look, it's mainly if there's things that tasks I didn't get to on Friday, it's cleaning them up on Saturday morning. So I'm not doing them Saturday afternoon. There probably will be speaking to vendors that go to auction that day and wishing them all the best. Might be a couple of final requests for changes on settlement deposit, whatever it may be. A couple of final things that we need to speak about.
Right.
But it's mainly just sort of break to the day to sort of, come to the office and settle and, make sure my auction prep's all done, that sort of thing. Auction box is ready. And so it's not really specific work that I'm doing, but it's more tying up the work from the week or Friday and making maybe a handful of calls if I need to. But it's not more than that, admittedly.
Right.
So I'm very fortunate, mate, to have a good team around us that manage a lot of the campaigns that we list, and they do a lot of the buyer legwork for us, and so their role on a Saturday morning would probably be very different to mine. But
okay. And then are you always going back to the office post your day of opens and auctions?
Via the pub, Matty. Okay. So it's an important way to end the day, mate, and conclude and share some more stories, mate, with the other guys. But I do. Yeah, in some way, shape, or form, mate. It's I will pop into the office on the way home.
Yep. Yeah, well done. I'd imagine Friday night prior to game day for the 24-year-old version of David Lettieri would have been vastly different to the now 34-year-old version of David Lettieri. What are you doing? What are you doing Friday night? Are you trying to wind down and get a bit of new time in on a Friday before you gear up and go for what is a pretty busy Saturday for you at the moment?
It is, mate. The 24-year-old version of me, mate, even the 28, 29-year-old version of me, a fraction different to what it is now. So, I was probably a little bit more social, mate, in my late 20s, even very early 30s, now approaching mid 30s. But I'd toe the line there with dinners and drinks and whatever it would be. But the version of me, mate, it's pretty quiet on a Friday night. Friday night footy. If I might have a social commitment, made dinner, but it'd be very quiet. Try and get in bed early, and otherwise it's a very long day, mate. If I'm doing anything else other than that, so on a Saturday, so particularly when we're wrapping up the day 4, 5, and beyond, so often. But no, very quiet, mate. So it's normally footy finishes and I'm in bed.
Right.
Mate, so.
Let's give some of the listeners, if they're still tuned in, David, which I think they will be, because you are a fan favourite at Marshall White at the very least, and I'm sure there are people from around other real estate agencies that want a piece of intel from David Lettieri. Let's give them some genuine value adds. So if someone's new in the industry, we know that listings are tight at the moment. So all you hear around the office, and it might even be a bit of a mindset thing, but the market's tough at the moment. It's hard to list property. Everyone I call, no one's interested in doing it properly and presenting it well, promoting it well, pricing it fairly, getting the right team involved. Everybody wants to hand me a set of keys and ask me to go out and get the magical buyer with the magical number. So for those people that are not finding it overly easy at the moment to get some traction and to convince some people that the market's actually in pretty good shape, and if you do all the right things, you are going to get a really, really successful result at the moment because your competition is so bloody low. What sort of advice have you got for them?
Well, it's funny, mate, because I'm very fortunate to mentor some really great sort of new agents into our business, mate, that you probably know very well, and some in your team. And these are discussions we're having often, in our catch-ups. And the basics of real estate have never been more important than they have been now. And I guess I was very lucky to start in real estate when I did, under a pretty old school regime, very old school boss and system and structure, and very different to what we have now in terms of technology and tools, and even just mindset on how we operate and do things. So it's very clunky, but the basics never change in terms of really good service to both buyer and seller, and consistency of contact with clients, and that's done through phone calls or face-to-face meetings, whatever it may be. And we're on the phones to create those meetings and opportunities. So that hasn't changed. And in 15, 16 years of doing this, mate, I probably understand that more now than ever before, is that the more people you're in contact with, the more business you'll hopefully create for yourself. So that's probably the biggest thing that I would share with anyone, and I do with the guys that I mentor, mate, is just do the basics really, really well. And that sounds so simplistic, but very few get it, and it's setting call rate tasks daily, weekly, whatever it may be, to hit those. And there's got to be a breaking point.
Can I draw down on that, Dave? What would be an appropriate call target for somebody that's in their first 2 years of real estate for a week to hit, in your opinion?
Well, I draw back to when I first started at Marshall White. So I came from a different area, no database. I knew the area. I'd gone to school in the area for many, many years, and grew up around the area, but I wasn't connected as well as I should, didn't know the streets and everything else. So I came here with zero. So starting again, and that can be very daunting to anyone, whether you're new into real estate, at 20 or 50. But I was very fortunate that a few people had left the company when I'd started, and I got given all their databases, and it was go for gold. And I got to about, and look, remember, I had no listing appointments, no buyer appointments, no opens. I had very little to do other than be on the phones. And my call rate was about, for a good 6 months, Maddie, till I started getting some traction and the like, probably 50 to 60 calls a day. Again, that's it. I didn't have emails to do.
50 to 60 calls a day.
Pretty consistently.
And can I have some fun here? Ring, ring. Hello, John speaking. John, it's David Lettieri calling from Marshall White. Who the hell is David Lettieri from Marshall White? You don't know me, John, but I'm just showing a bit of initiative to reach out and introduce myself and see whether I can help with any real estate related needs that you may or may not have.
Yep.
Literally, that's it. 50
that dialogue
times a day.
Dialogue. Or was more so. I know you've had some contact with Marshall White in the past, calling to reconnect, say hello, and see if we can help with any real estate advice.
That's
very short, sharp, mate. So I'm not on the phone we went on the phone for 25 minutes with anyone, but and that market when I first started at Marshall White was 2013 when it started to really get red hot. So I was very fortunate that the market sort of was, momentum was very strong. So people were interested in selling, and you uncovered short-term sellers very quickly and everything else. But that I guess that sort of cold prospecting wasn't really something that we did all that often here. And I was probably one of the very few young agents that started in the business at that time. So, and then obviously a lot more came through and paved the way for that to be what is pretty a common occurrence now with a lot of new agents in our office. So is, connecting with old databases, people that haven't been contacted for a while, and trying to create opportunities. So that's something we're pushing very hard here with the new agents. Not to the rate of 50, 60 calls a day, mate. That's not achievable when you've got everything else that you're doing, listing, selling, meetings and the like, and emails. But, I think that a new agent should be at least be able to get to about 20, 30 calls a day. Anything less than that would be pretty disappointing. Remember, that's only a few hours. That might be 3 to 4 hours of phone calls if you're having those short, sharp, conversation as you just went through then. So you can get through them, So I think 20 to 30 a day would be achievable. That takes you to comfortably 100, 150 for the week. So that would be you'd have to be at that pace, and it will be, it will take months to get some sort of traction, build a database, but once it happens, it's all about nurturing, and you can create, if you can find some short-term sellers there that you can list, that's a bonus.
With a face like yours, David, one of your biggest strengths might have been a door knock at the time and just get some face-to-face interaction? Were you a door knocker back in the day? Did you ever
Oh.
hit the pavement?
I was daunted by it, if I was honest. And I never did it at Marshall White, but I did it the previous company I worked at. And I had a bit of fun. You'd go with one of the guys from the office or you know, whoever it would have been, and you know, you take one side of the street and I do the others. So so it was a bit of fun. It was a bit of fun. But I don't think I did it very often, mate. I might have tried it once or twice, but that's probably my boss saying, you know, go and do something and get out of the office and, you know, stop surfing the net type of thing. So because I think my first few years in real estate, mate, it was it was a bit more entertainment for me more than anything. So it was how much can I get away with versus how hard can I actually work. So yes, but I tried it all, mate. You know, letterbox, door knocking, cold calling. I mean, you have to try explore everything, you know, to see what works for you. And look, I don't think it's something that, you know, we as a company do often. It's probably not in line with, you know, the homes that we sell and the clients that we deal with in all our areas that we operate. But there's some merit to doing it and trying it to see if it suits, you know, you as a person. And
Mark Sproul had a bit of success with it back in the day. I remember
he did.
A good man, Sprelly, and he would share some great stories about success that he had. But some personality types are better at it than others. I'd feel a little bit intimidated or shy at the process of doing it myself. So
Sprelly was a genuine terrier, mate. So, and he's a very good man. And he loved it, and he got so much from it. So he got it to a fine art in terms of his dialogue, and but it was all about, I think it was all about targeting the right homes at the right time, and I think that's what he was very good at. And he got a lot. So
disarming, or still has a disarming personality that's sort of easy to get along with. Or, you know, and sometimes the self-analysis is, am I actually that person? Am I good enough to break down barriers really, really quickly, or am I better off trying to build a relationship first and foremost, and then nurture that relationship over time? And hopefully that person or couple or family will decide to put me at the dinner table as part of the selection process. It's different strokes for different folks, and we know that.
Correct. Maybe me, mate, with a beard and sort of a thug haircut, Matty, probably not the most appropriate person turning up to someone's house in our area, but asking them to sell their house. But I like to hide behind the phones these days, mate.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm a little embarrassed, but the YouTube not going all that well with Zoomcast, but the audio version going better. So maybe that's got something to do with my head. David, hey, I'd have to imagine someone with your personality type, and we did, I hope I get this right, we did an Enneagram through the Steve Griffiths leadership program, and you were in my session, and
we were.
I was I enjoyed it. We had the great Damien O'Sullivan with us, and I generally went there with a pep in my step, knowing I would have a laugh at a minimum, and I might even learn a thing or two at a maximum. And we learned how to do meditation in the true sense, and we learned about health and well-being and trying to get a work-life balance. And part of that program was the Enneagram. And I'm not going to even attempt to try and break this thing down, but it's basically a personality profiling tool to get an understanding as to what category you fall in, but based on the character traits that you exhibit on the back of taking a test. And it was a bloody comprehensive
test. Yeah,
comprehensive test, right? And I remember you nearly broke the analysis computer scoreboard because you rated higher than anybody else as a type 3 personality. And I generally don't want to get too woo-woo about this, but type 3, if I'm not mistaken, David, was a killer, was an assassin, was an incredibly driven, hungry, determined, laser-focused, blinkers-on sort of individual. You know, you think of, I reckon JT would be, James Hossman would be a type 3. I think Ben Malitzis was often as a type 3. It's, if the ball's on the wing and you get two players to go out and win the ball, a type 3 is going to bring it back more often than not. Talk me, do you remember doing that?
I do. Yeah. I do, mate. And it was a very good program, and we had a very fun group, mate, didn't we? So no, I enjoyed it thoroughly. So I mean, I guess I probably wasn't surprised to see that. So I don't think Steve Griffiths, our mentor in that session, mate, was surprised either. So but yeah, a little bit embarrassing to see that, mate. But yeah, I was very highly rated in that that bar, mate. So but I wasn't surprised. So
there were some people in white coats that came looking for you once they saw the scores, David. It was quite incredible, I have to
Yeah,
say.
he shouldn't be on the loose. Yeah, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I would say though, with your personality type, which is an outgoing and gregarious one, but also an incredibly driven one, as we know, there would have been times in your career where, I don't want to talk about the lowlights too often, but mate, you would have looked yourself in the mirror, I would imagine, at some stage and go, gee whiz, I don't know if I'm good enough to do this. I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't think it's the right career for me. Maybe I'm better off doing something else. Have you ever had doubts that you would succeed at real estate, or thoughts of getting out of it?
It's a great question, mate. It is. I mean, no doubt there's been some pretty average spaces in real estate for all of us, no matter where you're at sort of in your career and experience. But look, I probably stopped enjoying real estate maybe a couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago. I probably got to a point where it was becoming a little bit mundane for me, a bit repetitive. I'm a guy that can't sit still, mate, and on the go the whole time, as you probably know. So it got a bit mundane for me. And yeah, so you sort of start searching for what that looks like, what it is, and everything else. Is it the team that you work with? Is it the office? Is it the area? Is it me? And yeah, so I was a little bit unsettled for a little bit, maybe 3 years ago, I think it was. And yeah, and look, that was probably when COVID hit and everything else. And it probably didn't change my determination and sort of motivation to keep doing the workload and everything else and do the things I needed to do, sort of day in, day out. But just in the back of my mind, just a little bit of sort of, am I enjoying this as much as I'd like to? I guess that's when you start sort of reassessing what's important, why you're doing it, why you're working hard. I work a lot, 60, 70 hours a week wouldn't be uncommon, in my work week, mate. So, and many others in our martial white team. So it's a lot. And then I got to a point where I probably didn't enjoy working Saturdays as much as well, and going, geez, it would be nice to have a weekend. And so yeah, there definitely was. And
how did you combat that, Dave? I mean, because post that you've gone even better than what you were doing. So you might have been at the crossroads, but it seemed as though you've made the right decision to hang in there.
Yeah, I think it might have been things a bit more personally, mate, going on, with me, that I probably unsettled myself as opposed to, and I think I was looking for issues and everything else. And once you find them, you fester and you make them bigger problems in your life. So I think I was my own worst doing in that. And I think the best thing for me was actually the slower pace of COVID, and actually just enjoying somewhat of some balance and some normality. And I enjoyed it for, not for the whole 2 years, mate, in lockdown, but the first one I actually just, I went with the flow, thought, well, if this lasts for whatever time, then so be it. But having time just to reconnect with friends, family, get back to living a healthy life, trying to keep fit. And I think I tried kicking the footy, at least a handful of times a week, with mates that live locally. And I think I walked 10K a day almost every day for every part of that lockdown period for those couple of years. And sort of went to a different headspace, as opposed to, being down on myself, binging TV show after TV show or movie and drinking like a lunatic, even though you might have had some nights, mate, that we did that. But I think I took another approach to it. And that's sort of, I think I shook myself out of that mindset. So, but then we ran at such a pace in and out of those lockdowns that it really got hard to worry about not enjoying real estate, because we were just so busy creating activity. And and then from that, mate, you start having a few wins and then enjoying it again, mate, as ever I can be. So I've got an amazing team, good office environment. So the market's been kind to us at the moment. So yeah, no complaints at the moment.
I reckon there's a bit to take away from that. Mate, I'm conscious of your time, so I'm not
No, it's okay.
much longer. But I remember Marcus Ciminello, I think it was episode 4. He said he defined it beautifully as a forced sabbatical. That's how he defined COVID. And the reality is that whilst none of us want a once in 100-year pandemic to break out, it kind of force us into listening to Dean Andrews day in, day out. The reality is that it allowed it, or it forced us to take time out and to have a think about who we are as people, who, how we are in our relationships. Have I been the best partner to my partner? Have I been the best mate to my mates? Have I been the best son to my parents? Have I been the best brother to my sister? It forced us to stop and think, as opposed to, I'd love to talk to you, I'd love to come over for dinner, but I've got a deal to put together, or I've got a client I've got to go see, or the priority order shifted dramatically, and it was forced upon us. I wonder if we could somehow, create that environment again without the hoo-ha of COVID. But there's got to be something in that, and I think that Steve Griffiths course that we did taught us.
It did.
Did you do any meditation post the course?
I did. I tried for a little bit, Matt, but again, I'm a guy that finds it hard to sit still even for 10, 15 minutes. So, but I guess I'm making excuses, because if you really wanted to do it, you'd focus and make it happen. But I did try it for a little bit. And it's probably one of the best sort of things that I've learned is actually the ability to try and meditate and know where to start. Where, I do laugh now when people say I meditated 15, 20 minutes yesterday, and I'm like, well, how did you do it? So but no, I'm very lucky to do that course, and I know we were grateful for doing it too, because it's a life skill now that I'm able to sort of flick on and off if I need to. So
yeah, spot on. So you may not do it every time, but if you feel the need to go there, you can go there and
correct,
get a little bit of solace from the world. David,
correct.
do you have ambitions? Again, I'm getting a little bit personal, as Bruce might say, but do you have ambitions to get married, have kids, and be the jolly Italian man with Michael Corleone style?
One of the great movies, mate. Probably still one of my favourites of all time. Definitely, definitely, mate. So while I love working at the pace that I do, and I love being busy, mate, and living a busy lifestyle socially and professionally, that's me for the minute, and it suits me beautifully, mate. So as cheesy as it sounds, mate, I work just as hard as I do off track and real estate, mate. So as I do on, but and that's what gives my life balance, and that's where I get enjoyment. For I guess it's a reward for working hard day to day. So absolutely, mate. I reckon I'm getting close to the point, mate, where settling might be on the cards, and it'd be lovely, mate, to do that in the short term. But I've got a beautiful nephew, mate. That's he's now 2, and I try and spend a weekend with him if I can, a day on the weekend, which is normally only Sundays, Matty. But I love seeing him weekly, mate, if I can. And I kind of like spending time with him, mate, getting real worn down and tired and giving back to my sister. So for now, that's it's filling the void, mate, of not having my kids and living that lifestyle, mate. But one day.
A David Lettieri wedding, it'd be something you'd want to attend, I reckon. If I could get an invite, David, table 174 in the back corner, that'd be great. I'd appreciate it.
It'd be hard for us not to be the MC, mate, given the beautiful nature of these sessions that you're running, mate. But tell you what, it'll be a nice big party, mate. So if it ever happens, so one day.
Mate, you're a great character. You generally uplift those that are around you. People like being in your presence. You make them feel good about themselves. You don't take yourself too seriously when you're in the realm of other people. Yeah, you probably do take yourself a little seriously on Zoomcast, David. But we loved having you on. You've been a guest that I wanted to get on for quite some time. You're a younger member of the director group of Marshall White as a whole. I think it's a testament to what you've been able to do and the work ethic that you do have, and your ability to want it more than the next guy or girl, I think has really influenced your results on field, and I really hope, mate, that you continue to have the success that you're having. Do you see yourself doing this? Last question: do you see yourself doing this into your 40s and 50s? Do we still see David Lettieri, the real estate agent, or
it's I think about it a lot more often now than I ever did, but look, I love it too much at the moment. And again, I'm not one of those real estate nerds, Matty, that I referred to. I love the lifestyle, and I love the interaction with people and others, and learning through others as well. So that hunger's still there, mate, to still wanting to keep performing as best I can. I'm not out to be the best agent in the country and the world, and that doesn't interest me. It's trying to go as well as I can for what I can bring to it. So and that hasn't that flame hasn't gone out yet, mate. So do I want to do it into my 50s and 60s? Maybe not, but I guess this industry, mate, affords us the ability to do so many other things, financially, and we do work very hard for how we are remunerated. But I think that there's other things that I want to explore, mate, and hospitality is a very great love of mine and my family. So in some way, shape, or form, that might be something I'd like to explore one day. So
I've got
but that's not the short term, mate.
Phone's blowing up. I've got Jack Bongiorno, I've got Simon Jovanovic, I've got Andrew Hayne. They're all calling me saying, "What the hell are you doing getting Lettieri out of real estate?" I'm not doing that. He's in it
Not
for
the
the long
short term.
haul. He's a star. We genuinely appreciate you coming on Zoomcast, available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you get a good podcast. David, if you could share it across your social media channels, I'd be much appreciative.
I will.
Appreciate you jumping on, mate. Well done.
Thank you, mate. With all the very few followers that I have, mate, I'm only very new to Instagram, mate. So it's a very big learning curve at my age, mate. So like a new kid again with that sort of space, but absolutely will, mate. It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for jumping on. Good on you, bud.
See you, buddy. Bye, mate.